So no Champions League trophy, nor indeed a domestic cup. Of course, it was Borussia Dortmund who probably produced their best win of the entire season when they met in the semi-final. Those two clubs set to meet again in the Super Cup. Dortmund went on to claim the cup in Germany, beating Eintracht in the final. So Bundesliga, yes, but by Bayern standards, room for improvement. And that's how they always look at life. Some would say Arsenal have a slightly different agenda. And what is on the agenda for this man? One of the truly outstanding individuals at Euro 2016, still only 19 years of age, Renato Sanchez, but he has not really quite established himself just yet as a Bayern player, and lots of speculation that he might be following Douglas Costa out. I don't know if you've heard anything about that.
Well, the last 24 hours, Bayern did confirm that there was real interest from AC Milan in the services of Renato Sanchez, whether in a high finance loan or an outright buy for the player. He really struggled to adapt early on to Bundesliga life, and if you think back, he had that long campaign at the European Championships. He didn't look fit at the start of the season, and it just didn't set him up on the right foot. He's clearly still a brilliant talent. We didn't see the best of him at the under-21s either this summer. But as you mentioned, they're still just 19, and massive potential for Renato Sanchez over the coming years, and some leeway, I think, deserved.
Yes. Don't often see, do we, a player who's established himself and has a major role to play in a senior international tournament find himself relegated to his national under-21 side the following summer. But that was Renato Sanchez's fate. And he's not going to start here for Bayern. Arsenal substitutes just making their way out. Certain degree of PR exercise being undertaken, of course, by the clubs. That's understandable at this time of the year, and also getting all those important sponsor messages across. Business side of it, very important. Nobody on either side, I think, can complain about how their clubs are structured in terms of the organisation financially. I was just watching Martinez, the young reserve Arsenal goalkeeper, towering young man. He'll have to bend down to get into that dugout there. So all set after the delayed start here in the Shanghai Stadium. The International Champions Cup continuing with Bayern Munich and Arsenal. Fervent interest, of course, in these clubs out here in Asia at this time of the year. Always great atmosphere, and the allure and glamour given the global nature of the structure of this International Champions Cup. Games continuing in coming days here in China and all across the United States. Arsenal, one of 5 English Premier League teams involved. There are 5 from Italy, with Juventus the champions, both Milan clubs, Roma and Sampdoria, PSG and Lyon of France, and the aristocrats of Real Madrid and Barcelona awaiting their bow. Elite company. The man who's won it everywhere he's gone, won everything pretty much against a man short of trophies in recent years. Two of the major personalities of the last 2 decades in European football nonetheless. New kit for this tour for Arsenal and a new sponsor's message, which I'm afraid I cannot translate for you, even if I wanted to. A more traditional feel to this outfit for Bayern, certainly. I think it's called retro, isn't it? Anyway. Thomas Muller's going to captain Bayern, and it will be Peter Cech to captain Arsenal. And that will also confirm that there has been a late change to the starting lineup here for Arsenal, because Per Mertesacker was on the original team sheet, and it looks like he is going to sit it out. Not a time of the year to take a risk. Mertesacker, of course, a player who got seriously injured in pre-season last year. That may also explain the thinking there. Something of a goalkeeper shortage for Bayern. Manny Neuer and Sven Ulreich still working their way back to fitness, and all of those who featured successfully in the big international tournaments have been given additional time off. So no Joshua Kimmich, Niklas Süle, Sebastian Rudi, nor Arturo Vidal. But Corentin Tolisso is in, and so too James Rodriguez. Arsenal's travelling party to Asia and Australia a long way from full strength. This is the starting lineup, and it does include Alexandre Lacazette and the other high-profile signing of the summer for Arsenal, Sead Kolasinac, who has arrived on a free transfer from Schalke. But no Mertesacker, and that's a late change. Guanxing all set to get it underway here. Bayern from left to right in the Shanghai Stadium. So lots and lots of unknowns about how Arsenal's individuals are going to acquit themselves. And another fascination, Rob, will be to see whether they go with a back three or a back four, especially given the late withdrawal of Mertesacker.
Certainly, Arsene Wenger has said ahead of the new campaign that they'll be sticking with the formation that they ended last season with at Words and saw them play so well against Chelsea in their FA Cup final at Wembley. We have seen some of the defensive central midfielders slot in, certainly against Sydney in their first pre-season friendly. They didn't have enough centre-backs to really fill those positions, so I think even Francis Coquelin had slipped in to one of those at one point. I think Wenger will want to keep the system the same and try and get his players more and more acquitted to the start of the Premier League campaign.
Looks as though there's a job for El Neni at the back here today. Christian Bielek down the right side of what we think will be a three, and that ball from Cech was aimed in his direction. Looks like Ainsley Maitland-Niles will play down the right in that area there. That's his header. The 19-year-old Maitland-Niles in elite company here, certainly. A real feather in his cap, I think, after a tremendous spell with the England under-20s, the triumphant England under-20s who won the World Cup in May and June. He featured in every game, not starting everyone. Kolasinac. Coquelin went over. Back by Xhaka, and there's our centre-back of the day, El Neni. Who knew? Well, I don't think it was in the original plan. Ozil tangled with Bernat. Rafinha. James Rodriguez, over the top it goes, and no Mertesacker there, and Arsenal in a bit of a tangle. close. And in recent years, round of 16 is as far as Arsenal have been getting, most notably and infamously, of course, at the hands of Bayern Munich. The last 3 Champions League meetings have all ended 5-1 to Bayern. Twice last season. A 10-2 aggregate victory, which still smarts.
That defeat really hurt Arsenal supporters, you feel, because of its completely comprehensive nature, and only Alexis Sanchez really came out of that tie with any credit.
Ribery trying to run on the outside of Maitland-Niles, twisting and turning him. Low below this side. Seemed to be a hand in that. Hammers had the hit. He's 34, going on 18, this fellow Frank Ribery. That's how he speaks about himself.
I think Bayern know they can't rely on Frank Ribery forever. Saw his quality there to find James for first real shot of the game. Ribery had an excellent campaign last season. Injuries have blighted him over the past 3 years.
And then he caught ball watching. Muller has a swipe at it. Little let off for Arsenal there. Did not get a goal last season until December, Thomas Muller, and it ended up with only 5 in the Bundesliga. Of course, he's got many other battling qualities, but what a come down it was after 20 the season before.
It actually seemed to run on from Euro 2016, where they had to start playing Mario Gomez up front. Germany just couldn't work out why Thomas Muller wasn't scoring. Became the assist king in the Bundesliga along with Emil Forsberg of RB Leipzig. But he'll certainly be looking to get into double figures this campaign, surely.
Lacazette trying to link with Maitland-Niles. He was loaned to Ipswich Town last season, Maitland-Niles. It's a common Arsenal trend, of course, to lend their young players out to clubs in the Championship in England, and the fellow in possession there now also had a spell at Birmingham, Bielek. Xhaka, Danny Welbeck. He's only 19, Christian Bielek, the Polish youngster. A little bit of room for Kolasinac. Loves to come forward. Ozil onside. Squared by Welbeck. Inviting for Xhaka.
First real move into the final third for Arsenal. Granit Xhaka from his time at Gladbach has a great record against Bayern, and he can hit them from distance. But at the moment, Bayern winning in terms of intensity of performance, and they're marginally on top 7 minutes in.
Xhaka with that very important goal against Manchester United late season. Here comes Bernat. He thought about having a hit, took on a lot then. Maitland-Niles has given a penalty away. Bernat was just too sharp and strong for him, for the youngster. Arsenal are contesting it.
Arsenal not happy here at all, Paul.
Niles, I did not touch him.
Good industry from Bernat to get into that position. There's not a great deal in it, maybe slightly clumsy.
Well, it doesn't look good for the youngster, does it? Didn't really look fully pretty regular thing in Germany in July as the clubs return to training, and they just play 45-minute games against each other. He scored against Hoffenheim. The other game they played was against Werder Bremen, and Müller and Bernat were on the score sheet. Bernat's made a sprightly start one way and another. Maitland-Niles and Bielek. Coquelin won't get there. Bayern, much like Borussia Dortmund, looking very physically sharp. And as you have already correctly pointed out, Rob, it's all a bit of a step up from games in Sydney, this.
Oh, without question. Arsenal were playing with possession at a relatively slow pace against those sides from Australia. And as soon as Arsenal get it anywhere near the halfway line, the pressing's intense from Bayern to turn over possession.
Floated ball forward by Alaba. El Neni. Kolasinac. I think we can say with certitude this is a back three that has never played together before for Arsenal, and that's got to be a concern when you're up against Frank Ribery, Robert Lewandowski and James Rodriguez, to name only three.
A real test for that makeshift Arsenal backline today.
Welbeck's ball in was a good one. That was a fabulous strike by Ozil, and it hit Tom Stark, and I don't think he knew much about it. If Ozil had been able to steer it either side, surely Arsenal were level.
Fine work from Danny Welbeck, who needs a full season fit, and he picks out the run of Ozil brilliantly up against many of his international teammates here.
Literally, Stark, what hit me? Well, the ball did, happily for Bayern. Ribery looks full of it, doesn't he? Amazing. No offside. Aimed at Müller. Checked it well with that, but it just keeps coming back to Bayern. James Rodriguez. Rafinha. Kolasinac stops the cross.
Big season for Rafinha. Philipp Lahm retiring at the end of the campaign as first choice right back. And not enough pressure on Bayern when they do move it into the final third. Even Granit Xhaka was dropping off as they moved it towards the area there.
James Rodriguez on corner kick duty. Loves to take a free kick, of course. That will be something additional to the armour this season. Cech, I suppose, against a player of that quality, there is a great temptation. Who am I to talk to Peter Cech about goalkeeping? Great temptation to take a risk and go for it early.
He'll find the corner, so I guess you have to go one way or the other. Think back to the Champions League tie against Real Madrid. Arturo Vidal missing a penalty in a vital moment.
Yes, indeed. Season-defining game in so many ways. Arguably the game of the season, wasn't it?
Yep.
For football lovers right across the world, not just in Europe, but Real Madrid ultimately seeing off Bayern in a quite extraordinarily dramatic game. 2-1 both ways. Extra time. The late sending off of Vidal in the second leg, hurting Bayern so badly. And in extra time, Ronaldo and co powered on. Not James, of course, he wasn't involved. In fact, James Rodriguez's last game in the Champions League for Real was against Napoli. Here he is in possession. I think then, once he realised he was being left out of those key games, stretch it had to be by Monreal.
Extraordinary moment where James was juggling the ball on his head. Didn't even make the Champions League final squad against Juventus, the 18-man squad.
I think by then he knew, Rob. I think once, after that Napoli game, when he was left out by Zidane, he and his advisors said, well, look, I'm just so far down the pecking order. However well I do, I'm not going to get the chance. So he's decided to move on. And it's not a bad collection of clubs if you look at it, since coming from Banfield of Argentina. 26 years of age, he's played for Porto, Monaco, Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. Ribéry. It's looking very ominous here for Arsenal. One counter thrust by Özil, one hit over the top by Xhaka, but 4 or 5 openings already carved out by Bayern Munich. Rafinha and Kolasinac. Coquelin got there. Özil's ball over the top. Xhaka on the follow-up. Ancelotti put his arm in the air. He was onside, Lacazette, or given onside. That skill of putting the arm in the air, he learned that from Franco Baresi a long time ago. Stop, everybody, put your arm in the air. And basically they ran the game like that. Coquelin gets a free kick, no dispute, surely. A little bite at him by Tolisso.
He's a tough midfielder, Corentin Tolisso. New acquisition from Lyon, something like 40 million euros to bring him from the Liga club. A dynamic midfielder, breaks forward, clever in possession, but also a tough guy too. And should Bayern pair him with Arturo Vidal, that's a couple of real bruises in the middle.
El Neni. Rafinha. And new Kolasinac was trying to creep in round the back. Here comes Monreal. Kolasinac. Mesut Özil. Coquelin trying to snap in. As surprised as Tom Starker was when the ball hit him, that Özil chance, I don't think it's anything to the general surprise that he's actually playing for Bayern Munich at all. It's only because of the injuries to the top man, Manuel Neuer, and to Sven Ulreich, his understudy. Starker actually retired as a Bayern Munich player at the end of last season as the former third-choice goalkeeper. Banat. Good challenge by Bielik. Starker retired as a Bayern goalkeeper, and then they called him and said, look, would you help with pre-season? The other veteran goalkeeper, Cech, gets in the way. James had the hit.
Very bright start from James, involved in a lot of what Bayern are doing going forward. Having had not much game time in the last couple of years, that's an early good sign.
Özil seeing plenty of it, that's always a good sign for Arsenal. Lacazette. One back by Coquelin, that's his stock in trade, he's done it well there. And look at Monreal well forward. Özil. Monreal trying to creep even further forward. Lacazette denied by Starker. Got a little nudge cleverly from Alaba as well. Xhaka. Maitland-Niles wants it, and it's presented really a gift by Xhaka to Ribéry. And Coquelin wasn't going to let Ribéry get running again. in general, Arsenal not travelling with everybody they'd like here for one reason or another. 3 players the subject of transfer speculation as we speak. Kieran Gibbs, along with Wojciech Szczesny and Lucas Perez, sorting out their futures, not involved in the tour party. And the 4 who featured in major international tournaments still on holiday: Alexis Sanchez, Shkodran Mustafi, Rob Holding and Hector Bellerin.
One player I would be excited to see at some point is Reiss Nelson, who I actually felt was Arsenal's best player in the first half against Sydney down the right-hand side. Arsene Wenger said that he will be part of the first-team squad this season.
Somewhere in there's a booking for Javi Martinez. So 2 yellows in a pre-season friendly so far, and nothing in the class of 1 or 2 of the clattering challenges we saw in the Manchester United game against Real Salt Lake, one of which led to the sending off of Antonio Valencia. And there were 1 or 2 enforcers from the likes of Jose Mauri for Milan against Dortmund yesterday in Guangzhou. Nothing in that league.
Lots of Milan players were involved in heavy tackles that day, including Fabio Borini, then who's signing from Sunderland officially on loan.
Quite right, that looked very naughty. Looked to us like a stamp on Mark Bartra. I just don't want to see it in a pre-season friendly, and you know, I'm a neutral commentator, so I'd be furious if I was a coach. That kind of thing happening.
You almost want to say something to the other manager about the intensity at which they're playing at. As I suppose they're trying to market this as a genuine competition with a team that wins a trophy, they're officiating in such a way that they are going to show yellow cards and red cards.
The problem was really that the intensity level was higher from one team, Dortmund, than it was from Milan, and it was frustration, it seemed to me. And there's a degree of that intensity difference here between Bayern and Arsenal. Martinez down.
I'm sure every Bayern supporter winces when Javi Martinez goes to ground. He has had his injury problems ever since he arrived from Bilbao.
Was there when he was needed last season, given Jerome Boateng's problems, in fairness. Strong campaign, stronger campaign after the injury problems. And the timing of that was good for him and for Bayern. This is the yellow card incident. He's had a word with the referee out of turn, hasn't he?
Even Martinez is surprised to be but for that.
Well, he turned away. He may not know that he was actually carded for giving him a mouthful. Willy Sagnol is the new assistant manager this season at Bayern alongside Ancelotti. Sagnol, the Frenchman, played for Bayern, was at Bordeaux as a coach. Wenger, no changes. Plus ça change, plus la même chose. New contract, that's the only difference. The signing of Lacazette, his statement of faith. We did actually have a drinks break on the 30-minute mark yesterday in Guangzhou. Not as humid here, still very warm. Ozil to El Neni. The one positive, and you have to, I think, look at it from a positive point of view when you have a disruption like Mertesacker suddenly disappearing off the team sheet, is it may open the door to another player to show what he can do, and it may open the mind of the coach to say, well, look, El Neni, as an example, you know, El Neni, if he does well, that's a little plus for us today. And I think that did happen to a degree with Monreal a couple of pre-seasons ago, where they had to play him as a centre-back, and whenever he's been called on, he has done a respectable job in that area since.
It's the time of the season to learn these things, isn't it? Low risk, situation, but still against high caliber opposition. And we know that the modern day back three, there must be an excellent ball player in that lot, and El Neni is handy in possession.
Renat to Ribéry, Tolisso, gone again, cut off by El Neni. Welbeck. Maitland-Niles. Ozil, Kolasinac trying to get in contact with him. Ozil took it on himself. He's moving well with it here, Ozil. That's a unfortunate slip for Monreal, but he's all right.
Little moment there between Ozil and Lacazette. When Lacazette was at Lyon, I thought he was best when he was playing little interchanges with Nabil Fekir in behind him. And I think for Arsenal, that's what I would want to be seeing next season. Ozil in a central position in behind Lacazette, so they can work those ones. Of the right foot pass that he can bend round.
Lacazette is in here for Arsenal, and he's denied by a brilliant stop by Starker.
It was almost certain he was going to bury that, Alexander Lacazette. There's the combination we've been talking about, and that threaded ball into Lacazette was spot on. Great goalkeeping from the veteran, who, as you say, is filling in perfectly.
Wasn't a lot wrong with the attempted finish, really, was there? Lacazette had picked his spot. He'd almost got the ball past him, and in a very elastic fashion, the 36-year-old got his left palm on it. Ozil, that's Lewandowski's firm header clear. Last man is Maitland-Niles.
Confirmation, by the way, as well, Paul, that Mertesacker has withdrawn due to illness ahead of kick-off, named in the original 11. And he was actually excellent against Sydney in one of those friendlies.
Ribéry. James Rodriguez, miss-hit. Going to be a corner to Bayern. Lewandowski went after it. Well, we wish him well, obviously, hoping it's nothing serious for Mertesacker, but I think most Arsenal fans will be relieved to hear that rather than an injury, given that all his injury problems last season started in pre-season. Like I said, charging back to help. James Rodriguez's corner. Martinez over the top. If we're going to include Alaba as a potential centre-back, it's an area where Bayern are laden with riches now. The addition of Niklas Süle, many people's idea of the best young centre-back in the Bundesliga, along with Martinez, the renowned combination of Boateng and Hummels.
It might be the best collection of centre-backs in Europe right now that Bayern have at their disposal. And even David Alaba, when the team sheet first came in, I thought he might be playing in central midfield because he's done that before too under Guardiola. And the options available to Carlo Ancelotti ahead of the new season.
Welbeck doing his best to get his arms out of the way.
Well spotted by the referee as Welbeck was about to break forward.
Alaba left it to Bernat. Ribéry. Lewandowski running in behind. I think he's trying to just help it on its way to Muller. A couple of wrong ones from this assistant this side already.
I think Lewandowski was actually on, and then once that's happened, we're into a new phase of play, and Thomas Muller was in an onside position here. A couple of dodgy calls from the official on the near side.
Welbeck was on. Lacazette with the foul.
Much like Bayern, Arsenal actually aren't too far away from the start of their season, with the Community Shield coming up against Chelsea, I think, on August the 6th. I want to be feeling a little bit sharper ahead of that Wembley rematch.
Yeah, well, they'll first meet Chelsea in their next pre-season game, of course, and there's always a little bit of feeling between those two teams and two clubs. Then they've got back-to-back fixtures at the Emirates Stadium back home against Benfica and Sevilla the following weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Then it is the Community Shield, followed the following weekend by the start of the Premier League season against Leicester City. Home game. First three in August, followed by Stoke and Liverpool. Thomas Muller, deflection unchecked, did very, very well.
Really good recovery from Petr Cech, having already committed. But this is why they do all those quick, short recovery saves in training that you see that are so impressive. Decisive deflection, still one of the Premier League's best, Petr Cech.
And when not training, keep sharp by playing his drum kit. Certainly sharp then. Not prepared to go quietly, is he, at 35? And so keen to be a winner with Arsenal after all the success he enjoyed at Chelsea.
Had a very memorable night himself against Bayern in the Champions League final 2012, beaten by a Thomas Muller header, but we all know how that encounter in Munich ended up. Czech key to that success.
Bayern will never forget it. Tidy from Lewandowski, releasing Thomas Muller, who was waiting for the options to present. Ribéry, Maitland-Niles having a bit of a lesson off the venerable Ribéry at the moment. Bernat, and check again, and another deflection on it. This time he goes the other way and keeps it out. Tolisso, showing all that muscularity. The ball just squirmed away from Ribéry. Fortunately for Arsenal.
Yeah, they got away with a lot there. I mean, Maitland-Niles not playing in his number one position, but he showed too much of the outside to Ribéry for that chance for Bernat. A full credit to Petr Cech, who's keeping his side in the game at the moment.
Not one-sided. Arsenal have had a couple of clear chances, but 9-3 on shots. Ozil. Kolasinac. Kieran Gibbs' future in doubt. Is the perception that Kolasinac is clearly going to be the starter, I wonder, and is that part of Gibbs' problem at the moment? All to be revealed in the coming weeks. Here is the former Schalke man. Wasn't a very good ball by him. Hummels read that all. El Neni has it. Fits and starts from Arsenal. Some promising build-up work. A lot of it involving Mesut Ozil. James Rodriguez working back. A little too clever then for Kolasinac. Hummels. He's an absolute master of the ball, isn't he, Ribéry? Every touch. Muller will never have the same skill set, but presents a different set of attributes. James Rodriguez. El Neni not doing badly back there. Tolisso. On by Ribéry to Bernat. Rodriguez is free and nobody's really picking him up the other side of the box. That's where it's aimed. Made up so much time, Rodriguez, and yet again Petr Cech comes to Arsenal's rescue. How much time did James Rodriguez have before Arsenal woke up to that? That's straight at Cech. He can't believe he's not scored though, James, and understandably.
You spotted him, the Arsenal defence didn't, and Petr Cech is having an outstanding game here. But more encouraging signs, while James perhaps should have scored there. He is central to a lot of what Bayern are doing at the moment.
Wenger looking a bit frustrated then. And understandably so. It was so obvious, even I spotted it. Same area. Thomas Muller this time. Lewandowski couldn't quite get on the end of it. Tolisso has the whack well wide.
Good end to the first half from Bayern. There was a spell there where Arsenal were starting to get a little bit more comfortable. The weight on the pass was wonderful. The question as well.
Sorry, Rob, I think the question should be aimed at Kolasinac. It's his job to fizz back in there. And would you believe he's about to be substituted? Reiss Nelson. Now I wonder whether that is just a little reminder to Kolasinac immediately following that, or was the change to be made anyway? Bit of a coincidence, isn't it?
Yeah, strange one. I'm sure we'll hear more from Arsenal as to whether that was an injury or not for Kolasinac. Reiss Nelson, who was absolutely thrilling down the right-hand side against Sydney in their first friendly, really is an out-and-out winger. The two players they have in those wing-back positions, if we want to call them that, not really defensively minded at the moment for Arsenal.
Still the space is there for James. Nelson had a little check over his shoulder, and again we have to exonerate Kolasinac if he was injured and could not get back there. That must be said. And hopefully from Arsenal's point of view it's not a pre-season injury for the new man. Ribéry running track behind the goal, and I think it may still go into the crowd, that one.
We saw their Monreal parking instructions at Nelson about where he should be defensively, because he was too central and probably a bit too far advanced. He's got some experience in his ear for the remainder of this game regardless.
Might it also be the case, it's all idle speculation of course, that maybe there's a bit of a bug around Mertesacker before kick-off. Maybe Kolasinac not feeling too good in this heat, 34 degrees. Ozil offside. Or was he?
Well, you could tell first time. You could tell in real time that the officials again have got that wrong. Bayern, for people who are just joining us, have had a goal disallowed that should have been onside, well onside for Corentin Tolisso, who buried it.
Another significant piece of news for people perhaps joining us late, Rob. Serge Gnabry, who has prospered in the Bundesliga since Arsene Wenger let him move on from Arsenal, won't face his former club here. He is newly signed by Bayern after a great spell at Werder Bremen, but he has been moved on loan by Bayern to Hoffenheim as they look to get through their Champions League.
And for Bayern, who were heavily linked with him when he first left Arsenal, they eventually got their man, and under Julian Nagelsmann at Hoffenheim, Serge Gnabry surely will only improve in a very young, exciting team.
Well, one thing's for sure, he will be asked to work very, very hard, and maybe that is what Bayern are going to want to see from him to prove himself there. Relentless style of play, relentless training load.
They know that Ribéry and Robben are not going to go on forever, even though at times it looks like it. They have to be thinking about their future wide players, and Serge Gnabry, as long as he can stay injury-free, because he's had his injury problems as a youth player as well, he will be a future Bayern winger, already a senior international, having scored a hat-trick on his debut.
The one who is in reserve today is Kingsley Coman, who has been awarded a new contract. Perhaps coincidental, perhaps not, the departure of Douglas Costa to Juventus. Coman obviously will be itching to get out there at some point this evening. We know that Carlo Ancelotti really rates him. What about Ribéry? Every touch has been a good one. Here comes Thomas Müller. Ribéry goes again. That's fantastic from Ribéry, and what a fine piece of mopping up by Granit Xhaka.
You just had no idea how Bayern were going to work that 4 against 3 situation, and it was a wonderful surprise to see that outside pass, and James close again to getting on the score sheet here for Bayern.
Little change of pace by Ribéry, amazing. All bar the finishing touch. Well played, Xhaka. An awful lot of defending for Arsenal to do. Tolisso. Well, it's 1-0 to Bayern. It might be more. There have been chances at both ends, but a couple of really super stops by Peter Cech. A couple of questionable decisions as well to rule out what looked a perfectly good goal for Bayern Munich. And Bayern have been as businesslike as we expected them to be. Hard going for Arsenal. Not all one-way traffic, but in the physical sense, Bayern just looking that bit stronger and sharper at this stage of pre-season. It's still there to be won and lost, though. At half-time, the damage has been limited by Arsenal. Bayern 1, Arsenal 0.
Premier Sports is going mobile. Download our new iOS app and bring your favourite sports with you on the go. That's bone crunchers in the docks waiting room, overtime winners on your lunch break, and some 200 miles per hour racing on the bus. Oh, yeah, baby. Plus, check out our new Premier Player website on your desktop while you're at it too. Android version coming soon. The International Champions Cup, Friday on Premier Sports.
What's that gorgeous fragrance I can smell all over you?
Oh, that's just me, darling.
Yeah, right. She's just been washed in Comfort Intense.
Comfort Intense? You mean I can smell as fresh as her? Woohoo!
Comfort Intense, with intense freshness that brings your clothes to life. Presenting Comfort Intense Perfume Pearls for our freshness experience like never before. Great on their own, fabulous together.
I've been asked many times what my #1 interview was. Tough question. But for over 50s life cover, the nation's #1 choice is clear. The guaranteed over 50 plan from Sun Life. We don't like to leave something for our loved ones to help with funeral costs or as a cash gift. And with the nation's #1, you can do just that. If you're aged between 50 and 85, you're guaranteed to be accepted without any health questions.
And cover starts from under £4 a month.
You can't get this kind of cover for less. After you've had the plan for 2 years,
Welcome back, everybody. Reviewing the best of the first half here in the Shanghai Stadium in the International Champions Cup between Bayern Munich and Arsenal. Bayern stronger in terms of personnel at this stage of the season and stronger on the field of play as well. Questions over the decision-making from the officials at times. Maitland-Niles conceding a penalty. Arsenal disputed it, but no disputing what Lewandowski did with it to give Bayern the early lead.
Yeah, fine penalty for Bayern from Lewandowski, and their early dominance paid off. They have been dominant through the entirety, in truth, of the first half. Flashes from Arsenal, and a cool spot kick from their man who scored 30 league goals last season.
Welbeck providing the assist, and Mesut Ozil making up the yards well. Clean hit, but it was straight at Tom Starker, and Starker managed to keep it out.
Good save from the goalkeeper, who has stepped in reliably since getting that late call.
Thomas Muller into the path of Tolisso. Corentin Tolisso, one of the big money signings by Bayern. Tolisso given offside in error. It was Kolasinac playing him well on. Kolasinac would not see out the first half. There was a yellow for Martinez for this. It's a fabulous piece of work by Starker.
Wonderful weight from Ozil. That'll be the pairing, I think, that could work very well for Arsenal next season. Those kind of passes. That's a really good stop from the goalkeeper.
As close as Arsenal came. In the main, Bayern pressing. What about that from Peter Cech? Off Monreal, the hit by Muller.
Called upon on a few occasions, Petr Cech, and has been as reliable as ever against a Bayern team he's faced many times.
And again, Burnett had the hit in the end. There may well have been a deflection on that too, but Cech holding firm, and in the main, Arsenal holding firm. Hard press, Maitland-Niles, the youngster, down that side against Ribery in the first half, but Arsenal holding firm just about against the side where they've been humiliated at times recently against Bayern Munich, particularly in the Champions League.
Good opportunity here for James, who has been very good, I feel, in the first half, linking up with his new teammates. What a signing he should prove to be for the Bundesliga champions.
But what fine work by Granit Xhaka when Cech was at last taken out of the equation. He got there ahead of James, and Arsenal keep the damage down to 1. Hard going in difficult, testing, climactic conditions for Arsenal, moving on from the Sydney winter to the heat here in Shanghai. And the second half coming up in just a few minutes. Arsenal moving on from the Sydney winter to the heat here in Shanghai, and the second half coming up in just a few minutes. Arsenal moving on from the Sydney winter to the heat here in Shanghai, and the second half coming up in just a few minutes. Arsenal moving on from the Sydney winter to the heat here in Shanghai, and the second half coming up in just a few minutes. Arsenal moving on from the Sydney winter to the heat here in Shanghai, and the second half coming up in just a few minutes. Bayern Munich leading Arsenal 1-0 in the International Champions Cup at half-time. The early penalty by Robert Lewandowski dividing the sides. A degree of difference in class, if not the gulf in class that we have seen in recent appearances and meetings between these two in the Champions League. That's what they're all playing for. That will go home with one of the participating teams at the end of this. Not quite one-way traffic, but Bayern shading it in all the categories. 14 shots to 3, perhaps the most telling. That Arsenal not without their chances, and a fabulous stop by Tom Starker to deny Alexandre Lacazette. That's one of those that was on target for Arsenal.
We saw Sead Kolasinac go off just before half-time. There are lots of rumours going around that he was ill towards the back end of the first half especially, and that's why he was withdrawn, and also why he was out of position, in fact, for a great chance for James Rodriguez. So probably the smart thing from Arsene Wenger to do to take him off.
Well, we did speculate that that could be the cause, and hopefully that, and nothing serious, just a stomach bug hopefully, rather than a pre-season injury for Kolasinac. I was surprised by how quickly he went out of it, which does indicate an illness, because he'd been very involved in the play going forward up to that point, and perhaps it just came upon him quite quickly, as it must have done for Mertesacker pre-game. And as we know, if there's a bug in the camp, it's going to go through quite a few of the players when they're all living in such close proximity. Hopefully it won't disrupt Arsenal's pre-season too much in the next 2 or 3 days. They meet Chelsea, of course.
Interesting seeing Jens Lehmann coming out with the players there as he's joined the goalkeeping staff at Arsenal. Just having a quick word with Petr Cech, who was one of Arsenal's best players in that first half, making a string of fine saves.
Ancelotti with a new assistant this year in Willy Sagnol. And an unaccustomed role for El Neni alongside Monreal and Christian Bielek in that first half, given the late withdrawal by Per Mertesacker. The player who came on for Kolasinac was young Reece Nelson, and we expect further changes here, obviously. Looks like Renato Sanchez is going to come on for Bayern. And so too Kingsley Coman.
An opportunity for two players who underwhelmed last season. Renato Sanchez struggled to settle in his debut campaign in Munich, but Kingsley Coman, who had come to the fore in the final months of the Pep Guardiola reign, having arrived from Juventus, he just couldn't settle in the team last season. So he too has something to prove after Bayern decided to make that loan move a permanent one. They had that option at the end of his 2-year spell from Turin.
The 17-year-old Christian Früchtel in first-team action for Bayern Munich. So Sanchez and Coman on, Muller and Martinez off. Martinez was carded in the first half.
Be interesting to see the tactical shift here, because you'd imagine that Kingsley Coman would take up a attacking midfield position that was previously occupied by Thomas Muller. Maybe James will go central. Renato Sanchez, straight swap for Javi Martinez, who has been playing uncharacteristically in the middle of the park today.
Arsenal, of course, already forced into a couple of changes immediately pre-kickoff. El Neni coming in for Mertesacker, and Kolasinac going off in the first half to be replaced by Reece Nelson as we get back underway here. Let's see if Arsenal can press on the gas a little bit. Suspicion they've switched to a back four here. We shall see. Alex Iwobi on for Arsenal. Like to keep Bernat occupied if he does feature down this right. That's where he started. Theo Walcott also on. Monreal. Looks like a back four for Arsenal. Maitland-Niles. Nelson. A little bit impatient perhaps Iwobi.
So Arsenal have got Danny Welbeck through the middle here. He did play there in the first half of the friendly win over Sydney. It remains to be seen how Arsenal's centre-forward options will line up for next season, whether Olivier Giroud will still be part of the club, whether even Alexis Sanchez, who played there a lot, will be part of the club either.
No news is good news, many Arsenal fans may say. Coman trying to run in behind Monreal. He's done that, and Arsenal look a bit stretched here, and then he's got to cover off in the middle if he can. Kingsley Coman, Lewandowski's free, he's pulled off his shoulder. Came to naught. Recovered by Tolisso. Lewandowski denied by Iwobi. Bernat. That's not good. Cohen Bramall can shift, couldn't quite get on that and keep it. And again Arsenal looking a bit misshapen here. Coman, oh Lewandowski. James denied by Czech. Did Lewandowski leave that? Surely not.
Arsenal exposed down their left-hand side again, the Bayern right. Wonderful swift play from Bayern. And this time Coman went early with the ball.
There you are, Lewandowski. Score it. I'm mystified by that, really, having watched him so often in those positions. And it's not like him to give a teammate a chance in front of goal, that's for sure. Maybe he felt he couldn't get there, but he looked favourite. James Rodriguez. So in the absence of some established first team squad members not involved, it's a very youthful looking Arsenal team out there at this moment. Bayern and Holding, Mustafi and Sanchez not in the party given their international exploits over the summer. And Kieran Gibbs left at home along with Lucas Perez and Wojciech Szczesny. Szczesny of course not involved last season either. Speculation that he will be signing perhaps today for Juventus, not Roma. Pulled back by Bramall. Rafinha with a polite inquiry about the card.
Sure, Bramall can't believe how his career has shaped, playing in non-league less than a year ago, working in a car factory, and now he's up against one of the best teams that we've ever seen.
Tolisso. Renato Sanchez. On by Lewandowski to Bernat. Frank Ribéry, unplayable at times in this match, goes over here. Nelson. Confirmation that Joe Willock is also out there for Arsenal. Bramall. Xhaka suddenly looks like the senior statesman out in this Arsenal side at the moment, doesn't he? So confirmation of that raft of changes. Willock, Iwobi among them. Walcott and Bramall. Lacazette unable to find the net in his first half, 45 minutes. Denied by a brilliant stop by Tom Starker. Theo Walcott lining it up, trying to test this young man. He's not had a touch yet, has he, Friedel? Bayern free kick.
Good opportunity for the Bayern goalkeeper Friedel here. I feel that should have gone the other way.
I was about to ask you, Rob, you're the expert.
Willock looked absolutely baffled by the decision. We've been left baffled by a couple out there today.
James. Well recovered by Maitland-Niles. Theo Walcott. Got to take a lead role here for Arsenal. Bramall. Hummels gives chase. He's quick. Bramall has done well. Alaba, cool as you like. Ribéry. Look at the condition this man is in. Oh, he's taken one there. Maitland-Niles has had enough of being tortured by him in this game, I think.
Well, he has tried to back off him and read where he's going to go. That hasn't worked for him. And this time it was a strong tackle. He did win the ball.
Irony being, you know, for a lesser challenge, he gave a penalty away, didn't he? Now, you're right, he won the ball first, but Ribéry did feel that.
You'd imagine that would almost be a dead leg or something for Franck Ribéry.
What a tune he's getting out of Ribéry nonetheless, Ancelotti. From the neutral perspective, it would be a shame if that's going to finish Ribéry's involvement in the game. Tolisso to Renato Sanchez. Bernat. Well defended in the end, but it was a bit after you, wasn't it? Who was going to take responsibility for that? Joe Willock sorted it out in the end.
Good running from Juan Bernat, not Bayern's first choice left back. That position does belong to David Alaba.
Much cleaner challenge by Willock than the one that preceded it from Maitland-Niles. Monreal's head. You mentioned Cohen Bramall, wide-eyed. Willock, just 17 years of age. Turns 18 in August. Hardly played for the under-23s last season.
Brilliant opportunity for him. I mean, this competition has seen some young players really make their first team bows. You wouldn't call it a debut, I don't think, in this competition, but I remember seeing a freshly turned 16 Gianluigi Donnarumma play against Real Madrid for AC Milan in the International Champions Cup. And it is a real opportunity to impress your manager ahead of the new season. If there's a crop of you, like with Arsenal, I think he's taken 7 youth players here to China and to Australia. You would have thought 2 or 3 will be knocking on the door of sub-appearances in the Premier League next season.
Well, that's what they hope, at least, isn't it? And the question has been asked at times, Arsenal bring these youngsters to a point and then they never give them the chance to nail down a first-team squad plays proper. Wenger disputes that wholeheartedly, of course, but players like Joel Campbell in the recent past have got so far and then no further. That's the task for Willock and co. Still Bayern dominant in possession terms. They move on to meet Milan in Shenzhen in 3 days' time in the International Champions Cup. They also meet Chelsea in Singapore, followed by Inter. When they return to Germany, there are weekend fixtures for them against Liverpool and either Atletico Madrid or Napoli before the Super Cup meeting with Borussia Dortmund. Now then, El Neni. Tolisso it was. As you mentioned, he does like a challenge. Tolisso comes firing into that one, and he came off worst, really. Now El Neni is saying it was the other player who was fully overextended and then he had only eyes for the ball and went for it, and I can see his case there, I must say.
Well, and then he plays it. It's tough to say he had full control of the ball because he was always stretching.
But he wasn't stretching as much as Tolisso.
No, exactly. And I think a yellow card as well is very harsh on Mohamed El Neni. Caught Tolisso having played the ball, but...
Yeah, as he's now repeating, I played the ball, and you're right, El Neni, you did. Concern about Tolisso, obvious for Ancelotti.
I wonder as well, I mean, we have seen Javi Martinez come off. He did have a yellow card, but he also picked up a knock on his foot at one point.
Looks all right, I think.
Yeah.
A couple of really top saves by Petr Cech in the first half. Not a lot of goal-mouth incident either way in this second half so far. Lewandowski, who beat him from the penalty spot, leaves it to Alaba. And Cech gets down comfortably. Turned and went well. Chase for Bramall, not quite. Not really happening for Arsenal here after all the changes.
Yeah, missing the guile of Ozil at the moment. Relatively routine from Petr Cech. Lewandowski can also take them. He really added that to his game last season in the Bundesliga. Maybe his go next time.
Alaba to Renato Sanchez. Shot count is pretty overwhelming, isn't it? Doesn't mean much if they don't go in. Wenger and Vic Akers having a little conference for Arsenal. Maybe a little bit of a shape change is needed here, perhaps. Who am I? Vic Akers, amazing, at 70, still going strong for Arsenal. Willy Sagnol explaining to a couple of his young charges what he wants next. Can Arsenal start to make something happen going forward? Not like that. Walcott not on the same wavelength as Bramall. Granit Xhaka's going to be withdrawn. And Aaron Ramsey's going to have a run out here. The hero of Wembley. Danny Welbeck been a bit isolated. Well, he thought he was being allowed to go on. Even at this range it looked out.
He had a long look at the referee there, Danny Welbeck.
I said Ramsey the hero of Wembley, but that performance in the cup final by Danny Welbeck will, I think, also stay in the memory for a lot of Arsenal fans. That's what he can be all about. Spiky, belligerent, sharp. Going again here. Bayern got lots and lots of bodies.
Well, it's a real attribute of Iwobi here.
Didn't give up on it. Got a free kick out of it.
He's very strong. Even winning that ball in the penalty area before holding off the likes of Renato Sanchez to win the free kick.
So can they make this young man, Christian Früchtel, do a little bit of work? 17-year-old. Probably the biggest crowd that Früchtel has ever played in front of, I shouldn't wonder, here in the Shanghai Stadium. It's not full, but it's a big crowd. Used to playing in front of a handful of people at Sabenerstrasse, the Bayern training complex. Ramsey has to go back for it. Rafinha stops him. Hummels strolls onto it, flicks it clear. Ribéry is full of running again and just denied by Cech. Well, I know he has his own personal conditioners and so on, but what a job they have done with Ribéry to get him looking this good again after the injury problems he's had. Well done to Cech for winning the race, incidentally.
Well, that was reminiscent of a man not available today, Manuel Neuer, charging off his line. To say great cameo from James as well as he comes off.
Pantovic and Vince Heimer. Two rookies to replace two big stars. Milos Pantovic is a 21-year-old Serb. He is a striker. Quite prolific in the Bayern second team, actually, last season. Two seasons ago, actually, was on the bench against Werder Bremen in the Bundesliga. Little seen of him since. Manuel Winsheimer, just 18 years of age. Rafinha inviting his young goalkeeper to get involved. You won't get cold here if you're a goalkeeper if you don't get involved, that's for sure. But it's always nice to get a few touches on the ball.
I remember Manuel Neuer once saying that at one point under Pep Guardiola they were so dominant he'd come off the pitch and not have to shower. It'll be interesting to see if Arsenal can test him.
It won't be. Looking like he wants to make an impact in this game. Bramall. Aaron Ramsey. Crowded out of it, but went again and was very nearly in behind Rafinha. Had to be sharp then. Was a nice 1-2 there, isn't it? Knew what he was doing, all right. Or so he'll tell us later. Ribéry. On by Bernat. Winsheimer. Renato Sanchez. Still more than 20 minutes to play in this game, and in this heat, going to test some players' fitness levels, I think. Certainly the tempo has dropped considerably. Winsheimer looking to inject a little bit from Bayern's point of view. Did well. Renato Sanchez. Bernat on swiftly from him to Pantovic. Promising little combination between those two. Here's this 1-2 again. Knew exactly what he was doing. You could try that 1,000 times in training, it would never work. Mind you, that's like saying to a professional footballer, try the crossbar challenge, ha ha, you know, from the centre circle, can you hit the crossbar on the full? And you doubt that they can do it, and then somebody's going to do it 3 or 4 times out of 10 and make you look stupid.
What a problem here for Maitland-Niles. Up against 2 Bayern players there on the jump.
Stuck to his guns for the Gunners well here, Maitland-Niles. Don't think you'll forget the first half against Frank Ribéry.
Certainly not. Take-ons from the Frenchman were very difficult to deal with. Hard to believe that, even though he's still very young, Maitland-Niles, that he'd made his Champions League debut in 2014 in a final group game. Experiences like this, absolutely huge for his development.
And that's where Arsene Wenger, if he was listening to what I said about the young players earlier, would take issue with what I said. It could be one of those arguments you could choose your evidence to prove either way.
Pressure on Premier League clubs now. You see players get appearances, 2 or 3 over the course of a season. But sustained game time in the Premier League, the stakes are so high it feels at the moment for managers.
Very nice little step over by Nelson, caught Pantovic out. As Rob has pointed out, did well in Sydney.
Well, that's what he's great at. Squaring up to a defender, making them think something's going to happen and go the other way.
Doesn't turn 18 until December. So as a 17-year-old playing for the under-23s, well, that's a 5-year age gap. Nelson himself takes it. Firm head by Hummels. Nelson goes again, taking on the old master. Pantovic trying to stop him, and Bayern emerge with it.
You have to love the swagger of it from Nelson as well. Clearly not phased. He's had lots of game time in the Youth Cup and the UEFA Youth League as well. England Youth International.
So who will be next? Goalkeeper change. Not to be Ospina, but Martinez instead. As Peter Cech gets a rapturous reception here.
Deservedly so. Peter Cech is the reason that the scoreline is only 1-0 at the moment.
Well, I don't think it's just for his exploits in this game either, is it? But for the wonderful career he's had for both Chelsea and Arsenal. Bit of a pop star out here. He'll love it if I say that, of course, because I mentioned he's a fanatical drummer. He'll love to be called a pop star. He has that kind of cult status out here. Arsenal still in it, but can they carve out a chance? Gone a bit quiet from Bayern's side, also in that respect. Maitland-Niles. I think this, Rob, is a great example of what the coaches always tell us. You can pretty much do as much on the training field, conditioning work, as you want. It's never going to be the same as playing games, and as the tempo drops here, I think we're seeing all the evidence in the world for that.
100%. See players coming back from pre-season and they look in good shape, they look in good nick. But 90 minutes, the intensity, the stop, the start is something else altogether.
Hummels stopped Arsenal. Ramsey was trying to lead them forward. Frank Ribéry. Renato Sanchez Close attention from Monreal, too close. Was Monreal the man whose goal was ultimately the most important moment of last season? I don't know. That shot from the blue, shot from nowhere against Manchester City. Eddie Nketiah on for Danny Welbeck.
Great to see him on. Versatile forward from the youth ranks at Arsenal. He says his game is all about pace, movement and finishing. If he can even carve out one opportunity here, it might be his most memorable moment in an Arsenal shirt.
Also came on in Sydney. So of the players named by Wenger as substitutes for this game, only David Ospina and Daniel Malen have not had game time now. Ancelotti still has a few additional cards to play should he choose. In fact, he's going to do that now. Felix Götze will be one of those coming on.
We saw his older brother Mario in action yesterday for Borussia Dortmund. Nice to see him back playing. And Felix has had a couple of opportunities, I think, for the Bayern first team.
18-year-old striker. Also coming on, Marco Friedel and Niklas Dorsch. Ribéry and Tolisso bid farewell. Along with Rafinha. Second drinks break. Hummels very, very keen to be at his sharpest for the challenges ahead.
Exciting to see when Niklas Süle becomes part of the plans as well, Paul, because simply brilliant for Hoffenheim last season. Not as much of a ball player as Hummels or Martinez, but an absolute brute at centre-back who has started playing for the German national team.
I think ultimately that does separate Hummels slightly from the rest, his ability in possession and indeed in the air in both boxes.
Absolutely.
But as we have been saying during this tournament, it's not only a question of competition at club level, but for all the German players now, the competition is white hot, given the success of the two international teams they put in the field during the summer tournaments, under-21 and the senior team, with the likes of Thomas Müller, Mats Hummels and Jerome Boateng, to name only three, resting. I don't think they rested quite so easily as they would have wanted, to say nothing of the Dortmund contingent. Mario Götze, Marco Reus, people like that.
So many will be feeling the pressure. Jogi Löw is notoriously loyal to squad members. Lucas Podolski was part of his plans for a long time.
Here comes the next wave for Bayern. Kingsley Coman maybe overplayed his hand a little bit then.
Yeah, and it's something with Coman, his decision making. We've seen it at times in the second half here. One great ball first time into the penalty area for Lewandowski. Other times as he released it at the right moment. Still very young though, Kingsley Coman, the French international.
Spot the 25-year-old out there now, isn't it? Both teams. Ramsey, senior statesman perhaps. Renato Sanchez. Narrowed a little bit in the possession sense. Bayern have not really had the same cut and thrust here in the second half.
No, it was devastating. James, Ribery, Lewandowski and Müller with some lovely combinations in that first half to tear apart Arsenal. It's actually, especially the last 10-15 minutes, been a much more even affair than it was in the first half.
But still, nothing really by way of goal threat from Arsenal. Winsheimer went all alone. That one was correct, wasn't it?
Yeah, tried to bend the run, but didn't come back enough. And you'll be thinking, Bayern still really only have one out-and-out striker at the club in Lewandowski. It's hard to find backup for him.
Theo Walcott for Arsenal. And Früchtel comfortable, really. Was that the best option from that angle for Walcott? Keen as he must be to get a goal.
This is the kind of angle he likes shooting at, with the instep sweeping it towards the far corner. But he did have reinforcements on the right-hand side of the penalty area.
There were easier balls on then than the one that was hit out to this near side. Inexperience is showing itself in certain areas for Arsenal, I think. Ramsey. Run back by Friedel. Friedel left back, and of course Holger Badstuber finally departed Bayern in the summer. Bit of room for a younger player to come through in that position. Friedel wearing 34.
Just tidied up the edges of their first team squad, Bayern. Made some real smart buys as well in the summer transfer window.
Nketiah lost his footing. Badstuber, of course, to go back to him, so unfortunate, losing basically the best 3 years of his career. Many people felt, we're talking about Hummels, the man in possession, being elegant as a centre-back with the ball at his feet. Many felt that Badstuber was even better when he was on his game and fit. But they tried everything. Finally a loan spell at Schalke, and he didn't really excel there either, I'm afraid. So it's such a shame to see his career in such jeopardy.
Stop-start, false promises. He'd come back, get injured after 3 games and be out for 9 months again. Very tough for Badstuber.
Friedel. Nelson did well going back. Little scene of Martinez these days. .183 he stands. Now 24 years of age.
On their finger is weighing up that he will be number 2 choice next season. David Ospina's been linked with a return to France. We know what's happening with Szczesny. Martinez did make his Premier League debut at the back end of last season, his first start. So maybe, he's coming in a few of these friendlies now, he might be back up to Petr Cech.
I think it would be quite disheartening for him, and I think you may well be right, Rob, but you know, if Ospina does not move on, then he's got to tell Martinez, well, you're back as the number 3 now again.
Without question.
Here come Bayern. Maybe they'll give Martinez a bit of work to do. Cut out by Bramall. Now, can Arsenal get forward with pace? Walcott's run off it, but he gets a free kick. There's an old pro showing a trick then.
Absolutely. It's just about to say that, Paul. Matt Hummels knows what he's doing.
Of course, nowadays, and especially at a club like Bayern Munich, you are an old pro, even though you're only 28. As has been said before, the veteran Thomas Müller at the age of 27, unbelievably. Coman. One of Arsene Wenger's key attributes in any young player is pace, and there is plenty of pace in these young players we're seeing out for Arsenal at the moment. Willock gets a card.
Clear as day, comfortably beaten by that lovely sharp piece of movement from Nicholas Dorsch.
Well, El Neni will come into shot probably here, or he would have done. He was covering. I'm not sure it was really necessary to do what he did. Friedel. Cleared by Ramsey. Ramsey took a lot on then. Bayern free kick. On by Alaba to Bernat. Friedel comes again down the outside. Fine stretch. Perfectly executed by Nelson.
Impressed with his defensive work here. Nelson playing in that right midfield, right wing back position that Oxlade-Chamberlain even took a spot for last season. I think he's been pretty disciplined defensively so far.
As you mentioned him, I did him a disservice, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, when I said who has not been used. Of course, he is on the bench. Should have added his name. And he's looking like he's not going to get any game time here. Of course, he's had so many problems with his hamstrings particularly. That might be one of the reasons. It was Alaba who made a real mess of that. And that's not much better. Alaba, I was about to say, doing his Lewandowski impression. Going all the way in there, just looking for the tap in. But that's where the similarity ended.
Nice break forward, and it was well spotted by Bernat, but no connection at all from the Austrian Footballer of the Year.
So can Arsenal's youngsters just inject a bit of excitement here late on? I know it's idle speculation, but it doesn't surprise me that Wenger tells us pre-game, you know, we've been training very, very hard, and he's got a player like Oxlade-Chamberlain who's had repeated hamstring problems on the bench, not using him unless absolutely necessary. Don't take a risk at this time, and you know, the youngsters looking to make the impression instead. Ramsey, bit short by him. Pantovic. Renato Sanchez. Been quiet, hasn't he, again?
So his wonderful thrust that he provides from midfield at the European Championships last summer, and he came into that Portugal side and I felt was perhaps the defining factor in getting them over the line. You know, they probably weren't the best team in France. But again, he's had a summer tournament. He hasn't had a big long break off that perhaps would do him well. Could see him at AC Milan come the start of the Serie A season.
Well, the problem is, at a club like Bayern, you know, the expectations are so great. Top clubs, you do not get a long break anyway, unless you're injured. And that's nice from him. That's a bit more like it. Bernat. And still. And just in the nick of time, Monreal came across. Great work from Monreal, and Arsenal survived. Let's remember as well, Rob, you know, when do the German players get their break? In the middle of the winter. And I know you don't want me to start that great debate again.
You can have that one off air. But they do. 5-week break in the middle of the Bundesliga season generally. 34 league game season, 1 cup competition.
A very famous ex-Bayern Munich player, and I will spare him his identity. Winsheimer gets a corner. Once said I said, what do you do on your winter break? He said, 2 weeks. Anything you like. Absolutely anything you like. In the sunshine. Nice life.
Well, that was wonderful there from Renato Sanchez. The very starting point for that topic. He was wonderful there in creating that opportunity for Juan Bernat, who managed to get away from Niles, who has played the full 90. Looks like he's headed for that anyway.
Arsenal's youngsters holding firm, sticking at it. Alaba denied again. Certainly not going to be a 5-1 against Bayern. In truth, little goal threat, especially second half. Lacazette with a great chance in the first period, denied by a brilliant stop by Tom Starke. Here comes Coman. Alaba, going to be 4 stoppage minutes. Hummels. Dorsch. Took a lot on then. And again, Arsenal doggedly sticking to it. Ancelotti applauding the idea behind Dorsch, trying to provide that little spark from midfield. Ramsey. El Neni starting and finishing as a defender. Not done badly, really, has he?
No, he's done very well.
Theo Walcott offside.
Also feel his distribution from centre-back's been pretty good. You mentioned it earlier on that maybe Arsene Wenger will learn something about a play he didn't know before.
By accident in this case, with Mertesacker withdrawn at the very last minute before kick-off. Not feeling too good. Suggestions that Kolasinac was also feeling unwell, incidentally, leading to his quite abrupt departure during the first half. Here comes Hummels. Renato Sanchez. Coman. Winsheimer in the middle. Coman puts his head down, tries to go around the outside here. Done well. Bernat trying to get on it, and El Neni did very well again. Hummels, cool as you like. Renato Sanchez has it robbed all too easily. Now or never really for Arsenal in this game. Iwobi, he's done well. Aaron Ramsey. Iwobi, yes! Arsenal level it right at the death. Alex Iwobi's got the goal. Well, it's not quite the FA Cup final, but it was Aaron Ramsey involved in it. This time the provider, and nearly as good a header.
Wonderful from Arsenal to finish the game with an equaliser of such high quality. Execution from this situation is brilliant. And Aaron Ramsey knew exactly when Iwobi was going to arrive on the scene to plant that header into the corner.
Superb from Ramsey, and what a good header it was. Maybe it was nearly as good as Ramsey's. Different context completely, of course, but a great moment for Iwobi.
Really celebrated that moment, and so did those young players who have resisted Bayern in the second half and avoided them extending their advantage.
So Bayern, who really dominated the first 45 minutes and had so many chances, may be asking themselves why it's ended up here at 1-1, but Arsenal take all the credit, their young players, for not giving up on it, giving everything, and at last, very much at the last, carving out that chance, which Iwobi took with some aplomb. And it finishes here, Bayern Munich 1, Arsenal 1. Arsenal moving on from Australia and stepping up in class against mighty Bayern Munich here. It was quite a struggle in the first half. James Rodriguez starting for Bayern. Bernat going out on the outside of young Maitland-Niles to earn a penalty. That was disputed by Arsenal. Maitland-Niles felt he did nothing wrong. But nothing wrong with the way Lewandowski stroked it home past Peter Cech, and it was pretty much a case of Bayern, how many they'll score at times in that first half.
Goal in the 9th minute, and it was absolute domination up to that point. And the front four really for Bayern of Müller, James, Ribery and Lewandowski were threatening.
Tom Starker, the surprise selection in goal, denying Mesut Özil on a rare Arsenal breakout. Thomas Müller into the path of the new signing, Corentin Tolisso, given offside when clearly he should have been given onside. Kolasinac it was who played him on. Arsenal got away with that. Best chance of the first half to Lacazette, and that denied by a brilliant stop by Starker.
Really backed Lacazette to score there, but a wonderful threaded pass from Mesut Özil too.
Peter Cech, who produced several top saves in the first half. Not so busy second half, but denying Alaba from the free kick here. And although the tempo did drop, the substitutions, of course, one of them Theo Walcott, as Arsenal look to inject a bit of energy into their performance late on. Chances few and far between, in all honesty, either way, second half. And very late, Aaron Ramsey with the setup and the flying header from Alex Iwobi. 1-1. And it couldn't have come any later or been any sweeter, as the youngster in goal, Christian Früchtel, was beaten. And that will mean a penalty shootout here under the rules of the International Champions Cup. And Martinez, who came on late on for Peter Cech, will do the honours, or so Arsenal hope, for the Gunners. David Alaba first up for Bayern. Oh, fabulous from Martinez. Alaba denied.
Great in a dead ball situation, David Alaba. Takes penalties for his country too. And all smiles from the Arsenal bench that Martinez has kept that one out in some style, recovered well too.
Good work. Mentioned how tall he is. He's got to scramble quickly there, but he did it. So is it advantage Arsenal? Ramsey with the assist on the late equaliser, taking the responsibility to get Arsenal's shootout underway properly. Which he does.
Keeper slightly shifting the wrong way, and he was unable to switch back into the correct direction.
Mats Hummels is stepping up for Bayern. An Austrian has missed from the spot in this shootout for Bayern Munich. The German does not. What a penalty that was. 1-1.
Really don't stop those. Planted into the inside of that far corner from Mats Hummels, who we know is such a technically gifted central defender.
Mohamed El Neni, drafted in for Mertesacker, playing the entire game as a defender. And he's denied by Früchtel.
Nice moment for the very young goalkeeper. The frustration for El Neni, who scored in Arsenal's previous friendly. Keeper gets the right way.
As they say, nice height for it, wasn't it? And he got there. Kingsley Coman, notable I think that all the senior players who finished the game are the ones taking the penalty so far. Coman just squeezes it under Martinez, who guessed right, but Bayern lead in the shootout for the first time, 2-1.
Good effort from the Argentine. Nice to see the two goalkeepers in the Union smiling at each other, but he wasn't actually that far away from Coman's kick.
And another senior pro next up, Monreal. Hammers it home.
Brilliant.
2-2.
Brilliant from Monreal. And the youngster was never going to get anywhere near that.
Renato Sanchez. I just wonder whether Ancelotti has made a decision here to try to avoid asking the youngsters to take one just in case they miss. I don't know if it's parental care of a sort, if you like. Renato Sanchez. Not a lot's going right for him at the moment in his career, and who thought we'd say that only 12 months ago?
Goalkeeper went the wrong way, but too much on it from Renato Sanchez, who really tried to bury it into the top corner. And Arsenal in a nicer situation once again.
And then he's the player who's missed, but they could now go 3-2 up. Iwobi with that spectacular header to level it. Now on penalty duty. And he gets it under Früchtel, and Arsenal now back in front in the shootout. 3-2. Nice little cameo this for Alex Iwobi, reminding everybody that he's around.
Once again, it's one which goes under the body of Früchtel.
Juan Bernat to keep it alive. And he can't do it. Martinez has saved it, and Bayern Munich lose on penalties. That's perhaps a bigger headline than Arsenal winning on penalties, but they'll enjoy it. They saved their best till last in this game, and Arsenal will take the points from this International Champions Cup meeting with Bayern Munich.
Well played, Martinez. He's done well since he came on and has looked impressive in the shootout. And Petr Cech will have memories much like those of Martinez from beating them in the Champions League final with Chelsea. Now it's his turn against Bayern.
He looked careworn for a lot of that second half, but he's smiling now, Wenger. Great respect and affection really between those two managers. And a little bit of self-respect for Arsenal here to beat Bayern Munich. Anytime you do it, anywhere, in any competition, any context, it's worth enjoying.
The story of two halves, you have overwhelming advantage over us in the first half, but you didn't play well in the second half, so, and you conceded a penalty, but you conceded a goal in the last minute. So what do you make of this performance?
Ja, das ist ein bisschen schade. Wir haben eigentlich ein gutes Spiel gemacht, auch die Jungs, die dann in der zweiten Halbzeit gespielt haben. Haben es eigentlich sehr gut gemacht, aber leider haben wir in der letzten Minute einen Konter kassiert und mussten ins Elfmeter schießen. Das ist dann immer ein bisschen Glück. Aber ja, wir können zufrieden sein. Die Jungs haben super gespielt. Auch in der ersten Halbzeit war es wirklich ordentlich. Und am Ende haben wir jetzt ein bisschen Pech gehabt.
Well, of course, it's quite a pity, but. In the end, we did make a really good game. Also, the guys in the second half, they played really well. Well, in the last minute, we got a contra goal. That is, that was unlucky, and we entered into the 11-meter penalty shot. Well, that is always a luck thing. So, but in the end, I think we're actually quite happy about the game in total. All the boys have played a really good game. So, all in all, it was a good game.
Can you tell us the key areas that Bayern urgently need improvements for next season if you want to become the title?
Wir können uns überall verbessern, aber wir sind auch schon sehr gut. Wenn es um die Champions League geht, dann liegt es oft an Details und das kann man jetzt noch nicht sagen, was im April passiert. Deswegen, wir müssen uns Stück für Stück verbessern, aber das muss jede Mannschaft.
Well, actually, we can improve in every aspect. We are already really, really good, but of course, there are always details waiting for improvement.